Welcome back to the BDP channel. Again, I am not working on my Chevy Blazer. So it seems that the weather conspires against me again. And so as you can see in the background, a tree in the back of our property fell down and is kind of hanging on for dear life. So I am going to attempt to cut that down without harming myself or any of my equipment. And so that sounds like fun. You want to see what happens? Maybe this will be a good worst accidents of YouTube video. So we'll see. Hopefully not, but stay tuned. So let me see if we can show what's going on here. This tree has fallen and is broken. It's a pine tree and it's broken. And then there's this other tree here that is keeping it from falling over that way, as you can see. And then here, this tree is on the other. This is the broken side, and this tree is on this side. So that means this tree cannot fall. So it's kind of wedged. I don't know if you can see it. It's wedged between. It's wedged between this tree and that tree up there. And so it is. It is just wedged. And in addition to that, it's wedged in between these two trees here, which are much smaller. And I'm not under any illusion that they're going to hold it up and prevent this from moving. But so I got to come up with a plan to get this to come down without falling on me. That's the fun part. So I think what I'm going to do is, I think what my plan is I don't want to reach the chainsaw over my head because that's not very safe. So I think what I want to do is cut it on this side of this tree. So that way this tree is protecting me from this broken branch falling over on top of me. But as you can see up there, that tree, when this cuts here, that tree is going to want to potentially, oh, it might not. Actually, I may have to change my plan. When I cut this, it's still going to be wedged between these two tall trees. And so I have to kind of count on or decide whether, once this goes, the weight from this being off the ground, because right now it's half the tree is on the ground. Once that's gone, I have to decide whether it's gonna break loose from the top of the original trunk that it is. So I have a feeling it might, so I may want to go over there and check it. Sorry about the sun there. It looks like it's pretty well broken off, and so I'd be willing to bet even if it didn't come down, I could convince it to come down after the way. So I think that may be a good shot of, I don't know, maybe I can, let's flip it around and see if I can get a whole shot. So that's my tree, kind of right in the center of the screen. Just to the right of that tree that's still standing is where I was going to plan my cut. So I've already done a little bit of trimming on the end, and it is firmly on the ground on that side. But it comes up and goes against that other tree here, and then it's broken off there. And so the tree once it's cut, I'm worried about this tree on this section coming down at me, and so I don't want that. So that's what I'm considering, is cutting it here. That way I know that this section will either stay there because it's wedged between those two trees, or it may fall down a little bit farther and wedge itself deeper, in which case I can just cut it out of there in sections. The big question is what happens to this piece after I cut it. And so thinking if I cut it or stay real close to this tree, that piece up there may break loose and it may kind of pivot around this tree and fall towards me. But I'm thinking, I was thinking it may be okay because it may fall down and not, I'm thinking this tree may protect me as long as I'm far enough over here, but I'm not so sure that's true. Because this may act like a pivot, and then this tree could swing out once it comes loose, because if there's pressure against it on that tree, that may be pressing it out a little bit, and so I have to I have to figure out if I want to risk that thing landing on me. If it doesn't come straight down, it may, you know, come out this way. So I may just take it slow, and we'll see what happens here. All right, here we go. Interesting. I wanted to show you what's going on here. I've cut nearly all the way through the tree and it has not budged. I don't know if you can kind of see. I originally created this back cut thinking it would kind of open up and I'd be able to watch when it was getting weaker. And I suppose it has opened up a little bit. And then I tried to create another notch over here, which I suppose is what has happened, is that I've created the notch over here so that this extra little, just little sliver of wood is holding it, but it just doesn't seem like that. Just doesn't seem like that's enough to hold it up, but maybe it is. And so I think what I'm going to do is just try and slice that, and then see if this tree goes down. I suspect it may not, is because it is jammed between these two trees, and so these two trees may be holding it up tight. And so if that's the case, I'm gonna obviously have to either try and convince it to come down, which I may want to do, or slice it off here, which will get rid of the lock between those two trees that are still standing. So that's interesting. That's interesting that's going on. So I may want to get a rope here and yeah, I may want to get a rope and tie it off to keep it from going somewhere I don't want to. So give me a bit and I'll be back. it looks like I was right. This is wedged between these two trees here. It is not coming down unless I release it from here or release it from the other end. And the other end is not good. So, what I got going is I've got this rope tied onto this other tree so that when this tree does get loose, I'm assuming there's some pressure on it. I don't want this tree springing back towards me. And so what I've got is, what I'm kind of taking a chance is that, get my glove off here. You can kind of see what I'm worried about is once I cut the tree loose from this standing tree here, that it might be, is it right there? Yeah, it's that tree. This tree may be under some tension and it may want to bend back at me once it's unlodged from here, and so I don't want that to happen. So what I've done is I've got a rope tied onto that tree there and secured back to the other tree so that it can't spring back. And so, but what may happen is that if there is a lot of pressure on that tree, the other end may come loose and kind of come at me. But it's a good 25-ish feet away, and so I think I've got this other tree kind of in the foreground that I can jump back behind if it does decide to do that. And so I think that's what I'm gonna do. Seems like the best plan I got, so we'll see how that goes. My escape route tree. I'm going to duck behind here in case that thing wants to come out. I think I'll be alright though. I don't think I want to be. Yeah, because that thing, once it goes, it may try and. That's not going to move. Okay. That was a little scary and unexpected there. Didn't expect that to happen, so I'm glad I was back this way. Whew. Definitely do a couple things different there. that log, when it flew up, that could have hit me in the face, and so that would have been a very bad day. Oh, this is pretty tight, so I'm glad I had that there. That could have came much farther out at me, but it wasn't bound up as tight as I expected, so that's good. Yeah, this coming down, and that log flew all the way over there, so that's yeah, I'm fortunate. I'm very, very fortunate that didn't go another way. So learned something today. That's what this channel's about, is learning a few things. So what did I learn? Get the heck out of the way when the tree is coming down, no matter where I think it's gonna fall. Weird stuff can happen. That log, the chunk of log that was there, that flew up awfully close, and so that wasn't according to plan, and that could have been bad news. The second thing I think I would have done is notched this tree, or notched the top side of the cut here. That way when I cut through, well, it's twisted, so I guess I would have notched the bottom. Notch the bottom, that way this piece would have just broken off, and it would have just dropped to the ground instead of dropping and kind of springing back, which looks like it would have did. Okay, so the next part of the job is getting the tree that broke, right there, getting the rest of that tree down. It's probably okay standing up, but the last one that I had that was like that, it was left there for a few years, and it became rotten, and then when I did try and cut it down, it was all kinds of a mess because the center was all hollowed out and it didn't fall the way I expected, so it was really fragile, and so I don't want it to get into that situation again. So I'm gonna cut that down the rest of the way, and I think the way it's leaning, it's gonna kind of, it's tall enough where you can't quite see the lean, but it's leaning that direction a little bit, but kind of sideways along this hill. So I think I'm not gonna fight that, and I'm just gonna kind of cut a wedge where I think it's gonna fall, and then it should go standard tree cutting process, if there is such a thing. So we'll see how that goes. landed right where I wanted it. At least where I was expecting. That one was much more predictable going out. So I don't know if it was obvious or not, but when halfway through there, after I had cut my notch, my pie-shaped notch that creates kind of a weak point in the wood, so that when you come from the back and cut through here, you're left with kind of a thin section of wood that creates kind of a hinged point in the wood that's weak, and so it falls the direction of this weak point. And so you're able to, by the way you cut it, you're able to control how it falls. But what I did is you can see as I started cutting the back cut really close to where I'd cut that the notch. And what can happen is that this thing can be a little bit unstable and it can fall backwards if you don't leave enough of this wood up this way, so that when this tree falls, there's kind of like this notch of wood here that it pushes back against this steep wall here and falls the direction that you want it to. It doesn't get wobbly and kind of tilt here and then fall backwards. So I recut that. You generally want it about 1 inch or 2 higher than where your pie cut is to be safe. So that's kind of what happened there. Other than that, it fell right where I wanted it to. So I think that's good news today. I think I'll just cut this in half, and I think my son wants to use the logs to do some expansion of his log cabin out there, if you can see that. So he's got some we built it when he was much smaller, so it's a bit bigger now, and so there's not much room for him in there anymore, so him and his buddies. So he may want to do something there. So maybe that'll be a future project video, and maybe he'll record that and put it on his channel. So anyway, that's it for today. Thanks. Enjoy.